write books, you want to sell books. But I also have them here because some of these I made in Scrivener. Like I didn't just type them, I typed these 3 in Scrivener, and then some I actually created in Scrivener, like I exported to an ebook, which I don't recommend, but we'll get to it. That's going to be much later on. So first about me, I'm an editor, author, and ghostwriter. Been full-time freelance for 4 years. I have these books to my name. I've worked with a lot of clients on their books. I've taught for Writing Workshops Dallas for 2 years now. And Amber is also an instructor with Writing Workshops Dallas, so I'm grateful that she's here. I'm grateful that y'all are here too, because I know this program, who's used it before?
You mean Scrivener?
Mm-hmm.
I used it.
Yeah, that's typically what I hear from people. Have you used it?
Download it.
Yeah.
With the intent of using it, but luckily this showed up just in time before I even started playing around with it.
Yeah. That is what I hear a lot, and I was in the same boat in 2012 maybe, so I've been using it for a while, and that's 2013 is when I wrote The Gospel According to Breaking Bad, and I wrote that all in Scrivener. I started using Scrivener because I took a course. I took an online course to learn how to use it and really figured out how to make the most of it, and I still use it to this day. Like, it's my main writing platform. Even though most of the work I do is editing, and most editors still have to use Word because Word has the best track changes feature. But you can export from Scrivener to Word really easily, which we're going to talk about tonight too.
From Scrivener to Word, not the opposite way?
Yes, you can also go Word into Scrivener, which we're also going to talk about.
Okay. Sorry, I shouldn't be so skeptical.
I know. I'm hoping your mind's just going to go explode. So, briefly, we've got a lot to cover. This is the first time I've taught this class, so I'm hoping that we're going to get through everything. So if I'm moving too fast, I might need to, but I also don't want to leave anybody behind. So if you're not following along with what I'm doing up there, raise your hand. As I said earlier, there are some discrepancies between the Mac version and the Windows version because they have not achieved parity yet. They are working on a Windows version that is similar to the Mac version, but there may be some things that you see on there that you're looking on your Windows. Might not be there, might be in a different space, might be called something different. But you're going to get the general lay of the land. I think it's really going to help you. So let's go around and share. We just kind of did this, but for everybody that we're now here, share your name, share what you're working on, and then share like why you want to learn this program.
My name's Tammy Daniel. I'm just a new writer. I don't have anything published or anything. I've heard about Scrivener and I want to learn about it. I was kind of scared to start it, so it's a good opportunity
Good.
to learn.
Go ahead. Jessica, you can introduce yourself too.
Yeah. Okay.
She's awesome.
I'm Jessica Torres. I'm the director of seminars. I help Blake out with a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff.
The other Blake.
Organizing. Oh, sorry.
And this Blake.
The other Blake. Yeah,
So
nothing.
which one of you is the other Blake?
We both are. We've actually started calling ourselves, like he calls me Blake.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like instead of Blake 1 and 2, we want to be equal. So Blake Kinsey started Writing Workshops Dallas, and he's the supreme dictator.
Yes. He's the one who organizes a lot of the classes and stuff, and then now I'm taking over the seminars part, and so that's what I do.
Because she's awesome.
Ryan Webb. I'm also brand new to this. A couple of movie and television series ideas, but do really well with accountability and structure, so hoping that this provides some of that.
Nice. To that end, Scrivener does have screenplay format, which I'm not going to get into because it's beyond my depth. I've messed with it a little bit, but once you learn it, I think you might like it. I don't know how it compares to like Final Cut. No, not Final Cut.
I'm just using the free one from Amazon, which I think has some limitations.
Sure. you know, free's good though.
So
Amber.
I'm Amber Royer. I write crazy science fiction that is over-the-top comedy stuff. I'm here because I have a lot of students who show up to my writing classes and ask me for advice and pull up files in this program. And I have no clue what to do when they do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Małgosia Wilk and I'm working on popular science book, and I have Scrivener. I tried it. I don't really like it, but I want to use it because when I was writing in Word and moving paragraphs, because I lost a lot of text.
Yep. I feel your pain.
Well, mostly medical type of biology. I am from UTA. I know
Okay.
teach that. I mean, I'm professor there. So.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. So everybody has Scrivener on your computer,
Yes.
whether the trial version or the full version. And if you didn't see, we got a 20% discount if you want to buy the full version. The code is WWDallas, all caps. I don't know if all caps matters, but if it does. And you can email me if you want that code later, if you forget it. There's also Scrivener for iOS, which syncs with Scrivener on your computer. You have to set it up the right way, just to make sure everything syncs. I thought I was going to use it. I haven't used it a whole lot, mostly because, I mean, you have a laptop. It's typically what you write on. But just know that that does exist. We're not going to get into that because that...
So that's not going to sync from my iPhone to a PC though?
No, I think it will.
Really?
I think. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Because essentially you're saving your Scrivener file to Dropbox. And so it's just picking, it's going to that as the source. But don't hold me to that completely because I would have to double check.
I'll look into it.
Okay, I covered the thing about Windows. They're still working on a version. I'm going to quickly run through 10 ways that I think Scrivener beats Word. So these are some of the things that you can watch that we're going to learn how to do. We just heard about, losing work in Word when you're moving things around. So Scrivener allows you to be non-linear. You can make discrete scenes. You probably, screenwriting, know about corkboards. You can move scenes around using a corkboard, and it's just really, helpful. You'll see it. I mean, that may not make a lot of sense right now, but you'll see how that's done. You can get really efficient using Scrivener. Although I wrote that, and then I have a quote from a guy that said he got, wrote his first book, took him 550 hours to write in Word. Second book written in Scrivener took him only 200 hours. I'm wondering.
But it's also second book. So.
What was the yeah, exactly. What was the change? But I like it. I just once you learn it, once you kind of get comfortable with it, I just feel like the writing starts to flow really well. I think Scrivener is faster. A lot of times you can open your big, huge Word documents and it takes a minute or two to load. Scrivener opens pretty quickly. Scrivener automatically backs up all of your stuff, which is excellent. You do have to set it up the first time, but once you set it up one time, every time you close the file, it'll sync. So you always have a backup. There's also a way to do version history on your scenes. Yeah, which is real fun.
Really?
And when I talk about scenes, you may not write scenes. You may write like sections of a chapter. I'm just using scenes as kind of that word, that catch-all. But you can do version history. So you can say, like if you make a change to a scene, but you're like, no, I liked what I had the first time, you can save both of those. I'll show you that too. That's really helpful. Scrivener allows research. Imagine that Evernote was combined with Word. So you can throw images, PDFs, websites, all into here so that you can reference that stuff as you're writing instead of having to have another program open. You can customize this layout. So what you see here, you can customize in a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you that. You can also do like a super simplified writing. This in here is called the editor. You can do super simplified where all you see is text on a white background. So everything else gets out of the way if you want. I'm going to show you that. There's multiple export capabilities. So you can export to Word, you can export to ebooks, you can export to a whole lot of different formats. We're going to cover Word because that's mostly what you'll be exporting to, I would assume. And then we're also going to cover exporting to an ebook format that I use and that I used on this one to a program called Vellum, which is Mac only. Sorry. And then the fun thing for Nano, I always want to say NanoWriMo. NanoWriMo.
NanoWriMo.
Because you wouldn't say National Novel
Reading
Month. That should be another month though. So Scrivener offers targets. So you can set a daily word count goal. And you can also set that based on when you want to finish. And it will automatically tell you. So let's say you got to write 50,000 words in a month. And you can only write on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It'll tell you how many words you need to write Monday, Wednesday, Friday to reach 50,000 words in a month. And the thing I like is that it will pop up this little notification. It'll make this nice little noise every day you hit that mark. And that's what got me to write this book, because I wanted to hear that little noise and get that little mark. And then you see your little progress bar. It starts out red, and then I think maybe it goes orange, and then it goes green the closer you get, and you're like, I'm gonna get there. And really, the only reason I finished that book, I quit that book for 2 months because I thought it was stupid, and I thought, what am I doing, getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and working on this dumb thing? And then eventually I was like, no, I'm just gonna finish it just so I can finish it. And I'm really glad I did, because now I get to do what I get to do. Storyboarding, I talked about. If you're a screenwriter, if you've ever seen kind of the behind the scenes of movies, they have all the post-it notes, or like, especially in animated movies, they have kind of the different scenes. You can do something like that, which Amber tried to do, and you'll see what happened.
Blake, real
I made
quick.
a mess, that's what happened.
Did you mention getting on Google Chat at the beginning, or what was that? Because
I
got
just-
a question.
Yeah, I did, and I invited people to it. So I'm like in a Google chat that I emailed to the people on the live stream, but I don't know if anybody's in there yet.
Okay, because I have one person asking how to get on Google Chat, so I'll.
Are they texting you? Or are they?
They're emailing me
Oh,
through the seminar email.
if we just want to do that, that's fine with me too.
Okay.
I didn't know if how we were set up for like communicating with the live streamers.
Oh no, you guys are welcome to email me at seminars@writingworkshops.com. writingworkshopdallas.com.
Yeah, don't worry about the Google chat, because I didn't know Jessica was gonna answer emails and be like your proxy. I'll leave that open just in case. But yeah, send emails, your questions to Jessica, and she'll raise her hand. That's good. And then the really nerdy thing that I hope we have time for is customizable metadata and color coding. And you got into a little of the color coding it looked like. So if you're like super organized, you can color code different scenes, you can add metadata, and that means, like, let's say you wanted to categorize all of your scenes by point of view. So you could say, this is first person, this is third person, whatever. And for this book, I went kind of crazy, and I was upset because I couldn't find the file for that, the Scrivener file, that had all these different things like point of view, setting, number of characters in the scene, trying to think of all these things. But I tracked all these things for all these scenes, and then you can take like a global picture, a global view of, am I hitting all these things that I want to hit? If that makes sense? I'll show you. And then I think what's really nice is Scrivener is $45. It's $36 if you use the discount. Word, last I checked, is $109. So this, to me, does a whole lot more for spending a whole lot less. So now we're going to get into it. And if you've opened Scrivener, go ahead and do a new project.
Well, started updating the version, so I'm already behind.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm at 67%, so
That's okay.
not too bad.
Well, until it does, you can look on with me.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're
I
all
mean,
on
I
the same.
started the project, so I kind of.
So Scrivener offers these templates. You can see all of them: blank, fiction, nonfiction, script writing, miscellaneous. I will show you. We're gonna do blank first, because that's easiest. So go ahead and click blank, and then let's forget. Double click that guy maybe. Then it's gonna ask you to save it somewhere. So I'm just gonna save it to my desktop. Sure, why not? And then you have a nice, fresh instance of Scrivener. Now, is everybody there right now?
Except me. I'm followed.
And what's taking its time? All right. That's good, that's good, that's good. Okay, I'm going to sit down for this part. This is going to be, the first part's going to be a little dry. But the second part is where we start putting everything together, and it gets, I think, hopefully more fun. So let's talk about, we're going to talk about the different sections of what you're looking at right now. So this top is the toolbar, and it just goes all the way across the top up here. If I could get my mouse to work correctly. With all those fancy icons. I'm curious what icons y'all see, if y'all see the same ones.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like you have more, but I think some of mine are just
Oh,
smaller.
Mhm.
Well, that's what I was wondering too, because I
But
wonder if
that's
this
a
is
default. Did you change anything? No.
I did. So what's funny is it's keeping my, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. It was keeping my choices. So don't worry about that quite yet. Yeah, so you saw that, there's like 50 options that you can add to the toolbar for different things that you can do. And we'll cover some of those. I'll cover the ones that I use pretty often. So you can customize that toolbar. I'll show you that. And one thing about Scrivener is that it's supposed to adapt to your style. So once you figure out like the things that you use most often, then you can really customize this to what you do. And that's why you saw my toolbar was different, because I had those certain things that I use all the time. Okay, so we have underneath the toolbar, we have the formatting bar. This should look pretty familiar if you've ever used Word.
Yeah. And this is what infuriated me most. It always comes with one kind of font. And I would like to set my font for my document, and I don't know how.
Sure.
I mean, I know when I block stuff, I can change font, but I would like to come up, like, to be.
Yeah, so what's funny is that there is a way to do that, and I never do that because I'm just.
You like. Yeah.
No, I don't like the original. I usually just manually change it. But when you set up a template and you open a new Scrivener project from that template, then it will come up.
Oh, that's why, because I was using their templates. Okay.
Yeah. And that goes a little farther than what we're going to cover tonight. But that's also something you can email me about, and we can figure it out together. Because what's funny is I need to set that up for myself too, and it shouldn't be that hard. So formatting bar, this is like styles in Word. You can set your own styles. That's another way to kind of do a quick version of changing your text. You have the fonts, regular, italic, bold, same thing over here. Font size, justification, text color, I believe, highlight, line spacing, and bullets. Then to the left, on this side, this is called the binder. Think of it like a file folder for your words in your research. One folder can contain your book, with folders within those folders holding your chapters and scenes. So essentially draft, that's going to be your full book. And then anything you have in here could each be a discrete scene. And I'm just clicking the plus and adding scene after scene after scene. We're going to get further into that. This is supposed to just be the overview. And then lastly, the inspector. You see this eye. Does everybody have an eye icon on the right hand side? You click that, and another couple windows should open on the side. And I think this is going to be different between Mac and Word, but some of these are still the same. This area provides information about what's in the editor. The editor is the big white space in the middle. The inspector also has 5 panes. If you look at these little icons right here. So the first one, as you can see, is synopsis and notes. The second one is document bookmarks. And we're going to talk about each of these things. Here's the general metadata, custom metadata, and keywords. Here are the snapshots, and then you have the comments and footnotes. What are you seeing, Amber?
Notes, references, keywords, custom. Yeah, so it's about the
Yeah, it's about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Enough so you can figure out like what's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So each of these sections can be resized if you just grab the lines, if you want to get a little crazy. But I usually have it like this. And if you want to hide any of those, you can just click the I to take the inspector out. And then on the left-hand side, you can click this one and do hide binder.
Why would you do that?
Some
If
people
you
might.
want, some people like blank page.
Oh.
Yeah, and there's a way that I'll show you later where you can have only the blank page, nothing else on the screen, which is kind of nice. But right now, I'm gonna open everything. Now we are going to do the toolbar and go across some of these things and some of these things that I like. So we just did show and hide, show and hide the binder. Now we're going to do show collections. So I don't use collections at all, but it is a way to gather your documents into. How about I just read what I wrote? That would make sense instead of me trying to wing it. So collections are essentially aliases that allow you to further organize content. For example, you can collect all scenes that still need to be edited, or highlight your most used words via save search. When you move a file into a collection, it remains in its original position within the binder. Let me show you in this other. In this one that I've already created. So let's say, and when I talk about files, I'm talking about these pieces within the binder. Let's say I move, let's see if I can do this. I have to add a collection first. And we're just going to call it new collection. And so I added the outline to this collection. But if you go back to the binder, the outline is still here. So it's just kind of creating an alias. And it's really a way for you, trying to think of like practical purposes. I never use it. But let's say you had certain chapters you know needed a lot of work. And maybe you throw them all into that collection so you can come back to them more easily. There are different ways to denote that kind of stuff. Maybe you want to do a collection based on a search result. That's how we do this. Yeah, this is weird. There we go. Trying to think, if you wanted to work on files that all had the word Scrivener in it for whatever reason, you could create a collection that is based on a search result. So I don't use that much, but you might find it helpful depending on what you want to do. And then I'm going to hide collections. You can see other options here. If you want to hide the format bar, click that, makes that go away. I like to have that. You can hide the ruler if you don't want the ruler. Show page view, I don't use often. Layouts, you can mess with this if you want to. It'll change the way the whole screen looks. You can also, I think you can also set up your own. I never mess with that either. Let's go to.
So what is it under binder?
Yeah, it's just that leftmost icon.
Not on my.
Not on yours, it might be different.
Yeah, but do you know what it is? On the
Okay,
PC?
so if you're looking, you can turn that on and off. That's
Uh-huh.
going to be the basic binder.
Yeah, I have basic
Then-
binder, but
Then the folder next to it is your collection.
I don't see the layout. Like, no.
Layouts may not be on the Windows one because I think even that's fairly new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think. I think we just have the ability to turn the binder on and off,
Mhm.
and turn the collections on and off.
Yeah, I don't see this layout. And I really want layout. I guess that's what will allow me to do font.
So next we're going to add a new document, and there are a couple different ways you can do this. If you just click the plus, you will see that a new document was created right here, and you can type your title if you want. Another way to add a new document, if I have this new scene already highlighted, if I just hit enter, it creates a new one. And then if you wanted to add a new folder, you could do this little drop down arrow and click new folder, and then you'll see creates a new folder. Is that pretty clear? Which you could also title.
So why did this new folder pop up as a corkboard?
Probably because you're in Corkboard view.
Okay.
Do you see these three icons up here in the toolbar? Something similar to that? Choose the one that looks like the couple of pages.
Okay.
Good? All right. Keep forgetting that we're not in the binder yet. So trash, guess what trash does? Puts it in the trash. You can also drag and drop. So all of these things on the left-hand side you can drag and drop. We're going to talk about that later too. But you can also drag it into the trash, or you can click the trash icon. This is the compose. Nope, that's quick reference. Let's see. Am I skipping? That's full screen. No, that's right. Full screen composition mode. We're going to get into that. This is the fancy. Turn that off. If you only want to have a screen that looks like this, and you can change the colors on this. I'll show you more of that later. Full screen composition is good. So what's funny, between the time I wrote at least this part of this course, they changed the default set of icons at the top, which is great.
So how did you get to full screen?
You may or may not have this icon called composition mode. It's this one way over here by the inspector, maybe. That's okay. We're going to talk about that more in depth later too.
I know we have full screen, but I have to figure out.
It might be under view. That's another. It's usually another way to access it for
Yeah.
PC.
Yeah, full screen.
And we're gonna talk about how to use that more later. So this is still like overview mode. So these three icons are the different views that we just talked about. So this first one is the they call it a Scrivening's view, but it's really like the default. You can view all your documents. This middle one is the Corkboard view, which so right now you don't see any corkboards because you're in a discrete scene. But if you go to draft, then you will see notes, note cards. We're going to talk more about that too. And then you have the outliner view, and this is kind of really helpful for when you want the really global look at what you're working on, and you can set up a lot of different information within that section. One other thing I'm not going to get into yet. If you're on a discrete scene and you're in outliner, you won't see anything. So you have to kind of be at either at a top level or within a folder.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. This little guy is the compiler. We're going to talk about that. This is how you export. So it compiles all your documents into one document, and then it exports to Word or to any number of things. I'll show you right here. So to print, I forget what like actual file type that goes to PDF, RTF, Word, OpenOffice, all these fun things. EPUB, OpenOffice, HTML. We're going to get more into that.
So I see when I go to compile, I see proof copy, screenplay, short story. I don't see PDF. Oh, okay, now I see.
Yeah.
But that's compiled for, and format is this other stuff.
Yeah, and the compiler is kind of confusing, especially in the older versions. I kind of beat my head against the wall with that Breaking Bad book when I was compiling to an ebook. But for getting it into like a basic Word file,
What is
That's
it
good.
under on Word? On Word. On PC?
What's that?
Square, this one is compiled.
Oh, this one. Okay.
And you see format S, and this is this short story screenplay.
Oh.
And the PDF and Mobi and all this stuff is on the lower line.
Okay.
good. This is the bookmarks icon. We'll talk about that briefly later. And this is where it gets really fun. So if you right-click the toolbar, you can actually turn icon and text. That might be better for some people. So it tells you what you're looking at. And then you can also do customize toolbar, and this is where it brings up a whole lot of options.
Okay, what I'm because I don't seem to have.
Know that we have that same.
Let me
And
see.
you can go under tools, drop down
Tools.
menu.
On tools.
And customize
Yeah.
toolbar.
Yeah, it just looks quite
Customize
different.
toolbars. Okay. I
Uh,
mean, it's less beautiful than his, but.
yeah, just because it's an older version.
Mhm.
Try to go through some of these that I use. So, okay. Let me see. So I use typewriter. And this is actually one I didn't know about, and I wish I would have. I learned it when I was putting this course together. So without typewriter, I used to type, and see it's on right now. And I would type, and I would get down here, and then you see how the text is at the bottom of the screen,
Mhm.
and I would get tired of that, and so I would do this because I didn't want to look at the bottom of the screen. So I would do all these enters, and I would type some more. So when you turn on the typewriter, oh, I just went to a new document. That's great. Did I close my other one?
I think so.
Mm.
So when you turn on the typewriter, it keeps all your text in the middle of the screen,
Mm.
so you're not looking at the bottom. And I mean, for years, I did that little, like, tweak, I guess, and I didn't have to, because I just didn't know. So I like, and I'm not entirely sure how it'll work on Windows. But did you
It's
figure out
in
how
there,
to
yeah.
add?
Yes, under, you have to kind of look for it.
Yeah.
Under main toolbar.
And did you figure out how to add it to the toolbar? I don't know if you can drag and drop or if you have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't. So what is
You
under
can
the
basically you
toolbar?
just drag and drop the icon to the toolbar and it should add it automatically, and then you can
But
access it that way.
Don't see that I have text that is.
Do you see it, Amber?
Yeah, so I added that, I'm trying to figure out what's in it.
Well, I can find it later because I don't see it. Oh yeah, typewriter stuff.
So if you do a lot of nonfiction writing, you might have to do footnotes. And so I drag the footnote icon up there, show you how to use that. And then if you want to make comments to yourself about anything, you can use the comment. I use that a lot. Superscript and subscript, you might need that. It's just to make it really easy to make those kind of marks. This Invisibles shows you hidden formatting, which may or may not be useful. So it'll show you like all the spaces in your document. It'll show it as like two, if you have a double space somewhere, it'll show you 2 blue dots. It'll show you all the paragraph breaks. So that can be good for trying to figure out some issues.
I don't think we have quite as many options as you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think comments is here.
It should be all there. Just... What is it called? Comment?
Mm.
Is it calling a project now?
No.
Here.
It's under Format toolbar
Yeah.
and then Comment. So there are 2 different like.
Yeah, there are 2 different levels.
See, I didn't know that either. There's a lot of hunting, unfortunately.
Well, it added something somewhere. Okay, see the typewriter.
That's good.
Collection, so if I added a comment, it would have stuck it somewhere else. No, that's not it.
to get to that point? Because I haven't. They're asking about that. For the PC, you have to access the tools on top.
Yeah.
Okay, it says comment. Oh, it's okay.
Okay. Just a few more that I like. Titled snapshot is how you can take, essentially back up a scene, and I use that one fairly often, and I'll go more into that. And then, where is it?
Okay, this may be a stupid question. So if I set up my toolbar the way I like it, and I open a new project, is it going to remain set the way I like it?
I think so, because
Yes.
it did on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. And then targets is another one I like, because that'll give you your word count goals, which we're going to talk about too. So I know that's a lot to take in. If you see anything else on here, I'm just going to save this for later, but always you can go to help and then search. And it will tell you, you can also use the Scrivener manual, which is super helpful.
So where's the target one located? Project targets?
Yeah. Yep. Yep, it's just hiding. Let's see. So now we're going to import some text. So let's say you've already written your book in Word, like a lot of people have, and you want to import it into Scrivener. It's fairly simple. There's a few different ways you can do it. File, import files, import files. Is it the same on Windows?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to import this little book I wrote called Frankenstein. And it will convert.
Okay, so you importing within one of the scenes or whatever, one of the scene documents.
Yeah, I didn't start anything new. Because I had this scene selected, it just imported my new file right underneath it.
Okay, I got lost. What is import in
File.
Okay.
And then import,
Mm-hmm.
and then files.
So it's
And
an
then you can
RTF.
pick a text file. You can pick just about any file.
Well, this says, please note that text files are imported will be converted to RTF.
Sure.
Oh,
You can also drag and drop from your desktop. So I grabbed that file, and you can just throw it in there that way too. And this does not affect your Word file. So if you started making if I started making changes to this text right here, it's not going to change your Word document.
I did something funny because it came as a subfolder. So I know I can move it to the same line left with the arrow, but why I didn't import with the right same.
From there, if it didn't import to the right place, you can drag and drop it. And if you move it, did it import as a folder?
Mm-hmm. No, yes.
It did? Let me see.
Okay, so it's,
Okay,
drag
so
and drop
I
it.
had my XXX open and
Mhm.
it imported underneath as a folder.
Oh, that's not a folder.
Not
It's just a blue icon.
Oh, okay, but
Go into it.
is the
Oh,
difference in this
customize?
versus this?
So
Yeah, that's
go between
because,
these two.
We
Um,
don't
Format
have text
and main.
in text.
right, right. So that shows, the little icon shows that there's text within that, and then the blank
Just
ones
do a
show that they're blank.
Format, and then the main is like the typewriter and all that.
Okay. They're just asking. Unfortunately, I don't have a DC. Thank you.
So, here's a fun trick. let's say you've written, let's see if I did it here, I think I did. You can have Scrivener, there it is. You can have Scrivener import a Word document, and then Scrivener will break up the chapters for you, but only if you put in a certain marker, and you can change what this marker is. I'll show you how to do that too. So it's File, Import, and then Import and Split. Is that on Windows?
Yes.
Good. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the same file, but then if you look down here, split into sections by finding separators in the text, and sections are separated by that. So this is what's default in Scrivener, but let's say you use something else, you would just want to type whatever that separator is. So I'm going to import, and then hopefully if this goes well, it should give me, there we go. So I don't know if you saw, but now it has chapter 1 and chapter 2 that it did automatically. So that's really helpful if you have, you know, a super long manuscript with lots of chapters that you've poured your heart into, and then it can split those up. But there are other ways to do that. Let's say you don't want to put the separators in.
So you put the separator in a Word document?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then you just have to make sure that in
It's
Scrivener
set up for it.
it matches
Oh.
the same thing. There was also an option under import and split. But yeah, I ran into this last time. So you can see down here now it's messing up, like it's not allowing me because I've already done it, and I think that's a bug. But there's another option that says split using the document's outline structure. You could try that, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you have set up the document's outline structure, because Word will like try to attempt to guess, but I don't recommend it. And so here's a way, let's say you imported the whole thing, you didn't do the separators, you still want to have your chapters separated out into different scenes. You can create your own sub-documents. There are two ways to do this. I'm putting my cursor right before chapter 2, and if I hit Command K, which might be Control K on Windows, you can see that now I have chapter 2. I'd have to change this title, but now it's broken up into chapter 1 and chapter 2. So I just split the document by hitting Command K. What's even better, here's
So
what's
so everything below that goes into it.
yeah. So now I have, this is chapter 1, and then chapter 2, but here's what I actually prefer. And I'm going to use this one as our example just so you can see what happens. I'm going to highlight chapter 2. And now if I hit, what is it? Command Option K, which might be Control Option K on Windows. Command Option K. It actually titles that chapter 2. So it does the same thing, it splits it, but it takes what I highlighted and makes it the title. Does that make sense? So like, let's say you wrote a long nonfiction book and you have lots of subheads in a chapter, and you want to have all those sections be different, but you want your subheads as the titles. Like this is what I've done. I've gone through, I highlight the title, Command Option K, and then I have that section as a scene. Does that make sense? Okay. It's one of the things I like. So you can also import images and websites and PDFs. And let's see. This is an image. I'm just dragging and dropping from my desktop, and now you have an image. That can be, maybe you need it for research for something. You can do the same thing with a link. Let's see if I can open a link here. So I'm dragging that from Chrome. It'll be interesting to see what it does with this one. It'll break my computer probably.
To break the network.
I know, I shouldn't have picked that one probably, because it's the Google Hangout. Let's see. Yeah, I just killed it. There's nothing like a live audience to make technology misbehave.
You know. I like your screen saver.
Yeah, it changes every day, so I never know what's gonna be. I mean, I know it's like nature, but. Okay. I'm gonna try that again with a much simpler website. I say much simpler. What's website? Well, trust me, you can import websites if you want to.
Oh yeah, it's technique, so hopefully.
Maybe it's just the way to do it. Yep. Alright. I'm going to stop doing that now. And then you can also import PDFs. Almost anything on your computer you can drag and drop in there. Just anything that you would want to use as research.
Okay, do you have to keep these files, or once you drop them in Scrivener?
No, if you still wanted to use Evernote or something like that, you could.
So how do you drag in a website from a PC?
Can you drag from the address bar of like Chrome or whatever you're in? Sorry,
How do you drag? Because whenever I click
it'd
over,
be over here.
when I click over here, my Scrivener window goes away.
I guess you have
You'd
to
have to have
minimize it.
2 windows open, or you could just save the bookmark to your desktop and then drag that over. So why would you want to drag your research in here? Like how can you view that at the same time as what you're writing? It's called a quick reference. So there are a couple ways you can do this. Quick reference, if you highlight what you want to look at and hit the space bar, opens a new window. This can be helpful. So let's say you want to have that open. As you're reviewing, you can do that. I don't actually use quick reference that often. I do a different route, which is the dual screen view, which I love, which is actually what I work in most often. I'm going to turn the inspector off, and hopefully this is the same on Windows. I think it is. Do you see this little icon over on the right hand side?
Oh yeah.
2 tiny windows?
Mm-hmm.
Click that.
Aha.
And I'm willing to bet that yours is vertical. Do you have them stacked on top of each other?
Right and left.
Right and left? Mine went away.
Well, there's two different little.
Oh yeah,
things.
so you
There are
can
two of them.
keep clicking.
Yeah, which way does it?
You have a horizontal one and a
Yeah,
vertical.
but now I don't know how to get out of it.
Right, we're gonna go over that. So if you click on, well, let's set it up vertical versus horizontal. If you go to View and what is it, Editor Layout, that's where you can set split horizontally or split vertically. So it really depends on what you prefer. I prefer vertically, but some people may want horizontally. So if you have that set up, let's say you want to look at 2 things at the same time. So you click in the window that you want to place your document in, or to show your document. Since we have both things right now, you're going to see both of these. And then I'm going to click over into this one, and I'm going to click on a different scene. So now, I mean, usually I don't have a picture open. I have like another document open that I'm working from. But if you need to refer to like another scene, then you can have that open while you're working on typing on the new scene. Make sense?
Don't you hate it when you see a typo on something you've already used?
I had these bookmark business cards that y'all can have, and I came very close to misspelling my website. I'm an editor, so that would have been bad. And I ordered like 500, of course. Let's talk about organizing this mess over here. I'm going to delete some of these because it's too much to bear. One way to delete is right click and move to trash. So you can create folders that can be chapters, which I think we talked about. I'm up here at the top in the toolbar, and I click the downward arrow, and then I click new folder. You'll see it creates it at the bottom. I'm going to move that guy to the top to show you what can be done. Right now, all of these sub-documents are outside of that folder, and you can tell because if you click on the little arrow next to it, nothing happens. But I'm going to move all of them in there. And right now I clicked on the top one. I'm going to click shift, or I'm going to hold down shift and click the bottom one. That selects all of them in between. And then I'm going to slide them all into the new folder. So now if I click that arrow, close it, they're all in that folder. And then if you want to get even more fun, you can drag the bottom one into, I shouldn't say the bottom one, you can drag this scene into this scene, and then they become linked. So you kind of get the different levels. I don't use that often. I mostly stick to, and I can also move this back out right there. I mostly stick to using folders as chapters, and then the documents as your scenes or your different sections. Keeps it pretty simple. Let's talk about the right click on any of these documents.
So I moved it as a subdocument. Why doesn't it just feed right into it?
I don't know what you're asking me.
I'm sorry.
Nope, it's okay.
I don't mean to be the difficult one here. So I've got this blog post that I stuck in there, and then you said I could copy this into that folder, so it's showing it in the folder.
Oh, that's not a folder. So that's still a text document?
Oh, okay. So how is this a sub thing of that then?
Yeah, you don't want it to be a sub-document?
Well, I was just trying to figure out how the tools work.
Yeah, I'm not entirely clear on the benefit of having a sub-document aside from it could be like just a section of that document,
Okay.
or it groups them together. Because it's pretty similar to having it all in a folder.
Okay, so I can stick all of this in this folder.
Yeah.
And be happy.
Yeah, and now if you, open that folder. Yeah, click on the, yeah, and you can see it's still kind of tiered.
Okay.
And some of that goes into when you compile.
Okay.
Because then you could say, well, I want my top level document to be formatted one way, and then this second tier document to be formatted a different way.
That makes sense.
Which gets into the craziness of the formatting. So it's at 7:30. Doing good, doing good. Let's run through these options. So I right-clicked on a scene. Oh, no, I selected it. Now I right-click. You can see, again, there are a lot of different ways to do the same things. Which you've seen. Sometimes you have icons, sometimes you have the menu. Here you right click, you can do add new text, new folder, new from template. No templates have been set. Add existing files, which is just importing. You can duplicate a scene. So let's say for whatever reason you wanted to create a new one, just duplicate it real quickly. You can move it to trash. Section type, which I don't think, that was even new to me when I was working on this. That goes into really the formatting aspect, what you want the heading, the subheading, or the section to look like, and then you can also make like custom section types. Don't worry about that too much. Labeling we're going to get into, which is kind of fun. That's where you can color code. if you so desire, and then you can also set up your own color coding. So let's say you wanted to change what the label was. And really, I'll show you why I'm not going to change that yet, because it also has this status. And really, this is kind of one of those things that you can really customize if you want. So by default, you can label as to do, in progress, first draft, revised, but then you can also go in here and make up your own if you wanted to. So you can change these, you can add new ones. And so it really depends on kind of what you want to track for yourself. The color coding could be like, I want all of my really intense scenes to be red. And then you could go to that global view and see that, you know, that they're happening when they should happen, or that you have enough, or that maybe you have too many. So it's really dependent on what you want to get out of it, how you set it up. Okay, we're still running through that. We'll take a break here in a second after we run through these. Move to, this is just a different way to drag and drop essentially. So if I wanted to move this outline scene to somewhere else, I could move it, you know, anywhere I wanted to. It's just a different way to drag and drop the scenes essentially. Copy to, if I wanted to make a copy somewhere else. If I wanted to add to a new collection like we talked about earlier. If I wanted to make a new folder based on just that scene, or if I highlighted multiple scenes, I could create, add it to a new folder. Open in Write Editor. So if I did that, should open, yep, opens over there, that's good. And then open as quick reference, we'll open it as a new window. And open in copy holder, I don't know what that does. There are still a lot of things, I shouldn't say a lot, but a good amount of things that I never use, that I don't worry about. Same for the binder. Convert to folder you may want to do, depending on how you're structuring it. Change icon is fun. This just helps you maybe see what you're working on. Maybe it's just a character sketch, and they actually have different templates in here. If you want to use flags, they have a bunch. But that's mostly just to help you organize further. Copy document link, you don't have to worry about that unless you're kind of interlinking. It's kind of like hyperlinks in between documents, which could be useful. I don't use it that much. Add to project bookmarks.
Would that one be useful for like glossary types if you're trying to create a glossary for, let's say, a nonfiction book?
Yeah, it would be. And then add to project bookmarks. I had to look up project bookmarks for this class that we're going to talk about later too, and I'll have to read what that is because I've forgotten. Essentially, it's a easy way to find information within your book, like things that you want to go back to.
Do you think your project bookmarks are my favorites? No.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Because project bookmarks was even new to me with this version, so I know they've changed the verbiage. Okay, we've got a few more things. And I could show you kind of the differences. I'm going to open a template. And I'm going to open their novel their fiction novel, to show you like the different way that they've structured the binder, just to give you an idea. So chapter scene, they have this characters, places, front matter, manuscript format. So this is all the fiction template. But you could set that up yourself as well, depending on what you really want to use it for. Let's go look at color coding real fast in case you're curious about that. I'm going to right click and do label red. And you can see that now this has a little red dot. It is highlighted in red. if you go to the Corkboard view, have to go to new folder, and you can see that the Corkboard now has this red stripe on it. If you want to see, you can actually change how blatant the color is. If you go to view and use label color in, you may not actually see, did you see the colors already? Or not?
No.
You showed it briefly about changing color labels when that part, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but now I'm wondering if this remembered my preferences.
Scrivener usually will remember whatever you change
Yeah.
from previous.
That's why I'm
stuff.
wondering if they saw, when you changed the label color, did you actually see the label color change? Yeah, because you have to go here, view, use label color in, and choose binder, icons, index cards. So if you say use label color in binder, then you should see this one turn red. And it did that automatically for me because it remembered my previous choices. If you're in the Corkboard view, and you want to change how these, I forget what they call them. I'm just going to call them stickies.
The note cards, I think. Is what
Note
they call
cards.
it. Yeah.
That's it. You can tell it where to show the label color. So this says show label colors along edges. If you uncheck that, I believe, yeah, now it doesn't show it at all.
Well, it shows the icons reddish.
Right. I thought there was a way that it showed the entire card as red, but I could be wrong. But we'll leave it like that. And then I'm going to I want to show you kind of the storyboarding arrangement. So let's say you had a bunch of different scenes that you were still unsure about where they needed to go, and you wanted to look at them this way. You can drag and drop these cards, and you can really you could really mess up your organization if you want to. And so if you notice, I'm going to take this number 9. I'm going to drag it all the way to the beginning, and now in the binder it's changed as well. So this is changing your global sequence.
How did you get numbers in here? Because I think
Oh.
I'm only getting titles.
Yeah, I did view. This is another thing that it remembered. Corkboard options and show card numbers, which may or may not be in the Windows version.
I see cards across, legal pins, status stamps, and keyword colors.
Yeah, it's probably not in there. But another way, if you want to add the numbers, you can double click on the title, and you can change the title.
Yes,
so
but
you can
then
just,
when you're moving, the number stays 9, and that's why,
Right.
when you're moving,
right. I think that's just
math.
a new thing that they added. And
The thing
then
is buy a Mac.
I know. Yes, I'm also selling Macs today. That's funny. So, and then to Amber's thing, this is the last thing we'll do. We'll take a break here. For what is on the cards, so this is not the full text. Actually, it is because that's funny as I say that. So let's do post
Mine don't
Scrivener.
show any text.
I know.
No.
How do you mix that?
Right.
It shouldn't show text.
So if you go to Inspector, so choose a scene, open Inspector, and then choose the first option, which is the synopsis. And then the synopsis is what you're going to see on the card. So now, and it was showing text because I didn't have anything in the synopsis. So it's just showing that stuff by default, which may or may not, I don't think it does it with the old
No,
version.
I mean, I just uploaded the new one, so.
Yeah.
Except it's for Windows.
So what you're saying is that I input everything into this little synopsis field, and now it's nowhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to
No,
put all
so
that into the editor, and then just use the synopsis for like the synopsis. You know, your 1 or 2 sentences about what that scene's about, because then that's how you can use the corkboard version,
So
corkboard view.
basically, I just have to copy
Extend
everything
it.
out of it and.
Yeah, extend
You
it
can
out.
also access that part through the inspector. So when you're in the document, you just click the inspector and it'll bring up all those options for you to input and stuff.
So now you can see on this last one it says this is the synopsis. So that's how you do that. Yeah, we'll take a break, 5 minutes,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the editor.
So we're still going to go about setting the template for no.
No, that'll be. We can email about that.
Because I mean, it drives me insane that I'm opening a new text and it goes to this courier, which I really hate. You know, and
Yeah.
I have to type few lines and then change it to, my phone. And it really
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
drives me
And
insane.
if we have
men's
enough
gonna be
time
on
when we
the
close,
right.
I think
I'm
we
sorry,
can
the
figure it
left and the women's is on the right. And then if there's full, just go past this door and then there's a
I'm
co-ed
just gonna
bathroom.
kind of head this way.
I put the synopsis on. How do you make it come here?
You need to be in the
So men's is over
draft.
here. And the women's is here. And
Because if you're just on a discrete
Oh, okay.
scene,
So
it's
is
not going
it-
to show you.
Unless I have sub-scenes.
Okay.
And you can also double click right on the card and add your synopsis there.
Okay.
They serve the same purpose.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is a card winner.
Thank you. What were we saying about the bathrooms?
bathrooms are this one's women's. And this one's men's.
Slowest student in class today.
I doubt that. You guys do seem to be at a bit of a disadvantage with the PC scenario, though.
Oh, man. Yeah, I have a Mac phone and a Mac tablet, but
You should just make the jump.
I should, but my husband doesn't really care for Macs.
Why not?
I think it's just the fact that nothing is where it is at his computer at work.
I was a long time holdout, and then I finally made the jump. And after about 2 days, you never want to go back.
I have heard it's awesome
Do it.
Thank you.
for not crashing and stuff.
Yeah, they don't get viruses.
I used to work with one.
That's why I got it, is because I was going abroad, and they don't get viruses.
There you go.
You don't have to worry about other people's USBs or any of those sort of things. Like, it's great.
I love Macs.
Do you know if you're operating I guess not the brand newest version of Scrivener, because on your computer, if you download the iPhone app, are they still gonna?
They'll still sync. The iPhone app, well, the app one, they haven't updated that one, so it should still sync.
Okay.
Yeah, the one I'm
So
So
using.
you can have more than one project.
one version
at a time.
behind because of
Yes.
how old my Mac is. So
Before I steal your pen.
That's the other reason why I ended up getting a used Mac. And I have to clean it up right now. Are you back? No, we're missing one.
Of course, you have to remember. Because it's wanting to open my wicked bad file. So.
You can search your system for .scriv. That's the file type.
SCRV.
SCRIV. I think it should be the same for Windows. That's a good question.
Yeah, and your Scrivener always opens the last project.
Okay, so yeah, whenever I open the other one, it's still got all these modifications to the toolbars and such.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I change this to so I can see what I have over here. I would have to sit and copy each one.
Why?
Because when I did it,
No, but if you scroll, probably you can get all of it.
no, because whenever I was doing this, I didn't know what I was doing, and
Or throw away the card.
I put every single one of them
Yeah, I know.
in, yeah, and so there are. Let's see how I get back to you.
So you do final editing or not like developmental or?
I do developmental too on some projects.
So like each one of these is just a synopsis.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I would start new.
That's why I went back to Word, because with Word, at least I can put in the navigation that I understand. But now I know that I was editing in that.
Right. You just put it in the wrong.
Yeah.
All right. We ready?
Now my question is, do you have to be in another view to add content? So you can't add content from the corkboard.
No, you can.
Right. You can only add the synopsis to the corkboard.
So that's what I was doing, was typing in the middle of the screen, but it was only filing it as synopsis because I was in the corkboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Yep. Now we're going to talk about the editor, which we talked about a little bit beforehand already. We already covered the fun stuff up here in the format bar. To show the ruler, we already saw, I think you can do, maybe, where's it at? I seldom use the menu. I usually use Command R
Why you need ruler? You like
to
it?
show and hide the ruler. Mostly to set your tabs, which editors are big on tabs because they annoy us if you don't set them correctly. Instead of like hitting tab to do a paragraph indent.
Is it in?
I forget where it's at.
Or maybe view?
I know, you would think it would be in view. Might be in navigate, might be in edit.
Okay, so what are the rules for tabs?
Depends on what you're working on. Nonfiction is usually flush left, and then a paragraph break.
It's under format.
Format. See, that doesn't make any sense. Format. What's under format for you? That's why I like keyboard shortcuts. But let's say you wanted to change your indentation, so you would highlight what you would want to change. You grab this tab marker way up here and move it to what you like, 1/4 inch. But usually you wouldn't do that with a header. That's getting a little more specialized than I was going to go into. But that's what the ruler's there for, to set your tabs. These arrows right here allow you to move up and down in the binder. So it's just a different way to select something else that you want to work on. So I'm clicking up now and I'm just working my way up the binder. Different way to access scenes. And then if you want to zoom in and zoom out, it's this bottom left. You click on it and then you can zoom way out if you so choose, or zoom way in. So you just figure out what works for you. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward. The distraction-free writing, I actually don't use that that often, but I know some people would probably love it. You can hit that full screen composition mode, and then you can also do view menu, and then down here to enter composition mode. And then I have the typewriter scrolling enabled. It has some, beware, something may be weird. But now, you can just work like this.
Is that enter full screen?
Should be right underneath that.
Full screen, back up, toolbar.
Maybe full screen. See what happens.
It's not exactly full screen.
Well, that's probably because of the options.
It popped up like this.
Something.
Yeah. If you click, why are my options not showing up? Where are my options? There they are. If you move your mouse to the bottom, do you get something like this?
Yes. So paper width.
Oh, in full screen. Okay.
Yeah,
So you can make it go all the way across.
exactly. So you can change these options, if you want the text to be a little bit smaller. If you want your paper position, so my paper width is all the way across.
Yeah.
If you want it to only be the side, if you want to change the position left or
How
right,
are you getting out of full screen?
escape, I think.
Before I go there,
Yeah.
Oh, it even popped up the inspector in the middle of it.
Yeah, and you can choose your background fade. You can also set a different background if you want to. If you need like some inspiration.
That actually looks kind of cool.
Right. And that's my desktop background. But you can also use a different picture if you want to, but that's,
Yeah.
And then you can also access other parts of your document if you need to, just to get it quickly. Or change to what you want to edit, let me put it that way. And then also access your inspector, so the thing from the right-hand side, and then this gets all your subsections of the inspector that we're going to go through.
Yeah.
And there's your synopsis. Amber's going to be the synopsis queen. And then escape to get out of it.
That's a horrible word in any context.
Any questions about that? Pretty simple. Now we're going to talk about achieving your daily word goals. It's a fun thing. Does anybody have daily word goals?
no. I mean, I do, but I never hit them, so I still doing.
Yeah. So I like Scrivener because it makes it kind of fun, I think.
I was using 500 words, and
That's not bad.
probably what better than because you immediately have big number
Mm-hmm.
at the bottom, but
So for Nano, it's 1,667 words a day to have a 50,000 word manuscript in a month.
1,000 what?
667, because I think they round up.
If you write every day.
How many
Yeah.
pages is 50,000?
Huh?
200.
200?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Last year I double Nano'd.
You what?
I double Nano'd.
You doubled
Yeah.
in a month?
Yeah.
Because you're
How long?
crazy?
Because I needed to get the book done.
Okay, so how long does it take you to write a page?
It depends on the page, because if I know where I'm going with it, it's gonna be a lot faster than if I sit down and go, this chapter needs to accomplish this goal and how,
Okay, we're going to set a
But
target.
that's work wonders.
If you look at the bottom corner, you should see this. You may see a progress meter. Do you see that?
I know it should
What
be
you
there,
see in
but
Windows.
I know it is there, but I don't see it yet.
Kind of.
I've got a,
Go into they call it the Scrivenings mode.
so
Yeah.
I've got something that pops up in the middle of the screen with targets when
Uh-huh.
you
Click.
click on it.
Down
When
the
you
right.
click on that.
Yeah.
The one that looks like a target. It was one of
Oh,
those things
okay.
that we added from the,
Yeah.
It's
See this?
basic.
This might be. They may not have this for Windows.
is it supposed to just pop up in the middle like that?
Yeah. And this is going to
This
be.
was one of the things we added and I clicked on it.
Yeah. And this is going to be way different between Mac and Windows, which
Oh, okay,
could be
so,
frustrating.
there would be here, number of words and number of characters. So we don't have it that beautiful, it's not us.
Right.
So set it up on number of words here. How many you want, like 1,000?
Actually, wait, I think I'm in the wrong project.
It doesn't, I mean, let's see. I don't think it's well, yeah, I mean, on yours it looks so way better. Because for me it says I have 1 word and 5 characters, and you see that you have 341 out of whatever you said.
Right, because I set that up earlier.
Well, I set it up too, and it doesn't change, it just reports what you have.
Yeah, that's just having an older version, unfortunately. So watch this. If you're on Windows, you may not need to follow along because I'm not sure it's going to give you what you want.
Well, you can input it, you just have to click on it to pop it up on the middle of the screen and make it go away.
Yeah,
Why is this not letting me do it now?
It doesn't
but
like-
look, he has a bar, which is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can set on words and characters.
There we go. Okay, just watch this. Don't try to do
Don't
it
try
yet
this at
because I
home.
think it's just going to really confuse you. And I need to. Yeah. So show target notifications. That just means when you hit your daily word count goal, it's going to pop up and show you that you made it. We want that.
Where did you go? To view? Format?
I went down to this icon down
Oh,
here, but
okay.
I'm saying don't worry about it. Just watch this section because I don't think you're going to be able to do it on Windows right now the same way, which is unfortunate. Now this wasn't letting me do it earlier. So project, show project targets. That's why I wasn't doing it because it was opening this window on this screen. That's what you were seeing earlier, a version of it. Yeah, I always have to remember how to do this. So when you open it, you might see so many thousand words of 0 words, and you want to click where it says 0 and set your total project target. So for Nano, it's 50,000 words. So I typed in 50,000, which it remembered from last time. That's the problem, is that I need it to where it's setting it up as a new one, and it keeps remembering what I did. So now it's throwing me off is what it's doing. So we want to get 50,000 words, and we want to click the options, and you can already see that I set the options. We have a deadline, so I want to click deadline, 11/30/2018. I want to have all my words done by then. And then I want to click session target. And this sets your parameters for what you want to achieve each day. And it says reset session count at set time each day. A lot of this is already set by default, but you want to check automatically calculate from draft deadline, and then you can select which days you're writing on. So I'm going to change this, and let's say I can just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. and I'm not going to write on the day of the deadline, and then make sure that show target notifications is also on there. And then if I click OK, it updated, I don't know if you noticed, but it updated this daily word count. So now it knows that I need to write 2,570 words a day to get to 50,000.
It doesn't show you pages, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, your version is fancier.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It's just updated. Yeah. They need to get that Windows version
Yeah.
done.
Not always, but no.
For a while, it
Fire
used to be
works.
PCs were first and then Macs were second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know,
Depends on
whoever
who's the
wrote
developer.
the
That's true.
Scrivener wrote it on Mac. And
And I want to see if I can, let's see if I can make that notification pop up. Oh, wait. So I have notifications turned off system-wide right now. And it wouldn't pop up if I did that. How many did I need?
oh, a lot, 2,500.
Yeah, well, you can't see it and you couldn't hear it, but it did pop up. It just said session target achieved. And then you can also see,
And you see before we begin on the top, you see this blue line.
No, I don't think
that
that's-
was- yes, it was, because
Oh,
on
it was
the first,
increasing? well, that's new too. Yep, how about that? See, I learned something.
Well, take, let's see, and budget it increases.
Yeah, if you set a target for a document, then it gives you the progress bar down here, just for that document. And then if you do the project, show project targets, that gives you the overall view. So I've only done that, 8,000 words of my 50,000, but this progress bar will creep up, which is nice to look at every day, to see that you're making progress. So I'm sorry that doesn't work that well on Windows.
But they're working on it, right?
They are, but there's no,
No due
they
date.
haven't said, like, we're definitely gonna have it out by now. Let's see. Now we're gonna go into all these sections of the inspector. So we talked about the synopsis already. You can use that to do like a 1 or 2 sentence about that scene. That really, I think you should do that anyways because it really helps you like, what am I trying to do with this piece of writing? And then helps you in the corkboard view. And then notes. So notes are attached to the scene, and really that can just be notes to self. Like maybe it's kind of a to-do list of what you still want to work on, or questions that you have, but it only appears in that little notes section. If that makes sense. And it will always be attached to that scene that you're working on, or that folder. Then if you go to the second icon, which is bookmarks, you can have document bookmarks and you can have project bookmarks. I'm going to read, because I had to look this up, so I'm just going to read this from the manual. These options allow you to make a bookmark similar to how you create a bookmark to a website. Except Scrivener bookmark can refer to any file within your project. And there's one, this is the difference between a project bookmark and a document bookmark. Project bookmarks are available throughout the entire project and work to elevate the accessibility of those items in multiple contexts. Document bookmarks, on the other hand, have a more limited role, being solely available from the document bookmarks list in the inspector. So one is global, one is local.
So this is calling it references, but I assume it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can see why they changed that, because references, you think like reference material. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's say I want to make a document bookmark. Yeah, I'm still learning how to use this too. So I dragged the editor, this section, into this document bookmark. And it made a global bookmark. So no matter what scene I'm looking at, doesn't make any sense to me. No, that's right.
I guess it-
That's
That makes
right.
the bookmarks in the document, but you're right, there is a way to do a global one, and I believe it's,
Yeah, it's the project
it's the
bookmark.
yeah, there's different
I was just
types.
confused because I did this earlier and that's what I was seeing. So essentially that's just it's yet another way to have quick access to some other part of your
Nice.
manuscript. And it's kind of convoluted. I don't know. You know, for any of the stuff that's like way too convoluted, and you don't think you're going to use it, don't waste time on it. But if you do think you're going to use it, you can use the Scrivener manual, figure it out in 5 minutes, and then you know it. So like, I mean, if I'm going to use this, then I need to work on it some more too. This one I like a lot more. The metadata and the custom metadata. So it tells you when the file was created, when it was modified. If you need it to include it in the compilation. So if you wanted to export, there are different ways when you do export that you can actually deselect what's chosen. So if you only want to export certain scenes, you can do that after the fact. But it defaults to including all the scenes in compilation. But if you want to uncheck it from this point, you can do it right there. There's another way to do section type. If you remember, you also saw that when I right-click and shows section type. Section type is something I need to look into that's related to exporting the file. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The custom metadata is really fun, I think, if you're into that kind of stuff. Let me see. I don't think I have one in there yet. There we go. I clicked the gear icon. Do y'all have that? Custom metadata?
We have general metadata, which is
Either creative or
keywords, and then the next one, yeah, we do have custom metadata.
Okay.
What?
So this one is general, and then this one.
Okay,
is
because
custom.
here, I have just plain metadata.
Okay, so see the key and then the tag, I guess,
Okay. So under the key.
is gonna be giving you keywords,
Oh, okay.
and then under the next one is gives you the
That's it.
custom keys looking at.
Okay.
So if you can add new custom metadata,
Mm-hmm.
it's either the gear icon or there might be a plus sign somewhere.
Yes.
Gear icon gives me word wrap all fields, color field name, edit custom metadata setting.
Do
I
edit.
think it says define metadata field.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you.
So I'm going to add one called POV. And then that gives me a new field. Should, if I click OK, should pop up right here.
Mhm.
And now if I click beneath that, I can type in whatever I want. And now,
You have to tag every.
no, now with every new scene, that custom metadata
Oh,
field is
here.
already there. So now you can see, if you look over at
Okay.
custom metadata, it says POV. So now I can come in here and say, you know, maybe this is second, who knows.
Oh, so you're
Um,
making a category.
Yes, that would be the easier way to say it. And you can use that to track anything you want. That can be super helpful for a lot of different things. And I'll show you a different way you can view, you know, after you put in all that information, in the outliner, you'll be able to view that information. And I'll show you that too. Keywords I don't use, but it's another way to essentially tag your scenes. You can think of them as like labels, so you can quickly find things if you want. If you want
Scenes
that
at
way.
home, scenes outside.
Yeah. Essentially, it's for making things more easily searchable, and you can always search. Clicking up in this bar, and then you can search for, you know, Scrivener, and now it's going to tell me, you know, I have Scrivener and all those documents. Okay, let's go to snapshots, which is the little camera icon. Do y'all have
And
that?
I do. I mean, I know we do. I just don't understand what it is.
Sure. Well, think of it like taking a picture of your scene.
Of your screen.
Yeah, yours looks much
Of your
cooler.
scene, yeah,
Scene.
and
Okay.
and essentially it backs up that scene.
But I already have a backup, so why would I need it?
because this works as a discrete backup for your scene. So let's say you're typing your scene, you make a backup, a month later you redo that scene, you make a backup, then a month after that you're like, well, I like that first scene better. So then you have a copy of that scene without having to, like, go to your full backup, find that scene, copy and paste.
Okay.
You can just hit one button and it automatically reverts to your previous iteration.
Which is really nice. That's something I wish I knew.
And so you can do documents and snapshots. And then you can see take snapshot with title. You can also click the plus button over in the inspector. And it automatically creates a snapshot, and you can give it a title. But that is why I liked the toolbar option for titled snapshot. And I'm going to drag that up there and use it just to show you what happens. And here's this is what this is how I usually title them.
Oh my God.
Sometimes other words find their way into those titles, depending on how annoyed you are. So what's nice is that you can compare scenes. So yeah, I should have changed something in that one so it would have seen. I'll do something goofy, and then I'll save a new one. Whatever scene, and then you can compare. And so I compared the very first one with the one I just took, and you can see it underlined and highlighted what changed. So that's a really good way to see what's different. And then if you want to revert to an earlier version, let's say I went to scene, which is the latest one, I want to go back, you hit roll back. It'll ask you if you want to take a snapshot before rolling back. I'm going to have to say no because I just took one.
In general, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. And now I'm wondering, because this should change.
Yes, back to final.
Yeah. See. Now I wonder what's going on.
Okay. So you have to be
Oh.
on the document, yeah?
Yeah, you have to be on the one you want to roll back to. That's what it is. Okay. And then we have comments and footnotes. So commenting, if you highlight a section and right click, I believe, can I do this? I thought I could. What I wind up doing is using the toolbar, which again you would have to throw the comment icon up there. And while I'm here, I'm going to add the footnote. They have two different versions of footnotes. I think one is footnotes and one is endnotes, maybe? I can't remember. And if you want to remove any of these icons, you can just drag it out of there too. So I thought you have to do customize. That's what you have to do. And then move it out. There we go. Maybe not in Windows though.
Now in Windows we're getting a table.
Yeah, and then you have to like plus and minus.
So actually it almost looks better in your version.
Yeah. So to make a comment, highlight, click comment. It'll make a new comment over there. Whatever you want. And then the same with footnotes. Typically footnotes come at the end.
I think you can type a footnote and then it will come at the end.
Yeah, and that is an improperly formatted footnote, just so you know. That's one of the things I can't stand. I have to correct a lot of footnotes, and it's so tiresome. But it's important.
Do you ever read any Jasper Ford?
Yeah.
Funniest part is the footnote or phone.
He's so smart. He's very creative. Any questions about all that fun stuff? I'm throwing a lot at you, and we are going to have time to ask questions, which is good. I think we are. I say that as I'm looking at, yeah.
All the things
We
you
are.
have to sell us.
I know.
If not, we can
How many of you back up your writing? You already said you did. What do you do?
Dropbox.
Dropbox?
Dropbox.
Dropbox?
drop
Dropbox. Do you use an external hard drive? Yes.
Occasionally, but not as often.
Yeah.
Because Jake will do a complete backup of the hard drive once every couple of months.
Yeah. So I always recommend like a threefold process where you do a cloud save, you do an external hard drive save, and then you also have like a system-wide cloud backup. If that makes sense. So you have your project backup, like to Dropbox. You save either your projects or your whole computer to an external hard drive, and then you also save your whole computer to an online service. So I use backblaze.com, which is, I wrote it down because I forgot, $50 a year or $5 a month. It's super cheap. I have not had to get anything from them, thankfully, but when you're working on something like a book that you've put a lot of hours into, you don't want to lose that. And so when you have that kind of redundancy built in, it gives you a lot of, I guess, safety, security. So to set up the syncing on Scrivener so that it automatically saves to like a Dropbox, we're going to go over that. It's File, Sync with External Folder. Is it the same on Windows?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so you have to set it for each project.
You do, but you only have to set it one time, and then every time you close that project.
But I didn't realize that it's great that I have a, Scrivener class folder now of
Yeah.
water project, because I thought once you tell to save to Dropboxes for every project you work on, it is not. Okay, so you
Right.
have to set it up.
You have to set it up for every new project. But after you set it up for that project, every time you close it, it will automatically sync. So
You have to go
use-
into Dropbox and set up like a folder for it.
No,
No,
you
it'll
can
automatically do
do
it.
you can do it from here if you do choose, and then I don't have my Dropbox on here. I use Google Drive. So I'll say Google Drive. I'll say new folder. We'll call it test.
But Scrivener for Dropbox, because I use it for my iPad, and yeah, they set up the folder for Scrivener for you. So
Yeah, it is recommended Dropbox, especially if you're going to use iOS.
yeah.
For sure. So you create a new folder on your cloud service, click open, and then everything else here I leave by default. You can research it if you want to. The only thing that may not be on by default is sync all other text documents in the project.
It's not.
So I turn that on because it won't sync like your research. I believe that's right. And I want it to save everything because I don't want to lose that stuff. And then I hit sync, and then you should see it syncing, and it says sync complete. And now, every time I close it, I'm just going to make a change. Let's save it. And now when I close it, it should say sync again. Now we're good. Oh, now we get to exporting. Exporting, so much fun.
First you have to write.
So we go to the view mode. Oh, we didn't do the outline. I totally forgot about that. Let's do that first. So outline. Okay, so can anybody tell me why I'm not seeing anything right here?
Because you're in the wrong space. Like you have to go to draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least new folder.
I know. See, if you're not seeing anything in this and you feel like you should, just make sure you're on the right folder or at the the topmost level. And it's not showing me anything in draft because everything is in this first folder. So if I moved this little guy outside of that folder, then I should see something in draft. Yeah. Move it back. I'm going to go back to new folder. I'm going to turn off the, whoa, that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to turn off the inspector. Make that full screen so we can see what we're doing. You can grab these label headers, so if you want to see some more, you can see the synopsis here. This is the test, this is the synopsis. You can see the label color here. If you wanted to change the label color, you can do that here as well. Same for status. So let's say to do section type, which we keep glossing over. If you also right click on the headers, you can choose a lot more things to look at. What I like to use is target. So that is my word count target for each scene. You can also set that target here if you wanted to. And then you can say, you can look at total, maybe progress, there we go. So progress will show you, have I written 1,500 words in my first scene? And then it's got this whole green line, so yes. And this is a really good way to see, you know, if you're aiming for chapters of similar length, that's a really easy way to see, have I done that? And then you can also see total progress, which looks about the same. Total target, which are also the same. Forget about those. Oh, and then there's our metadata. So you can see POV. And then if you click on the headers, it will sort by the headers. Is everybody tracking with that? All good? I feel like there was something I just remembered and then I forgot. Oh, status. We didn't look at status, which could be fun in the corkboard view.
Or you can click from here.
You can't. Yeah, you can change the status here if you want to. But I was going to show you that on corkboard. You see in the background it says to do.
Oh.
If that is not showing up, it is under view, corkboard options, and then show status stamps. It's just another way to organize your content and to see, you know, to see broad level, what do I still need to work on? And remember too that you can change what those labels are if you want to change what they're called. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we can go to exporting. Fun times. Which is under compile. And this is going to look, I think this is going to look way different on Windows because they just updated this for the Mac version too. So you might be able to suss it out on Windows. So compile for at the top, use the drop down, select Microsoft Word. And you should see by default on the right hand side that all of the scenes are checked off that are within your manuscript. If you didn't want to include something, all you have to do is uncheck it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit compile. And let's see what we get. Save it to my desktop. Call it something else.
Okay. So there's a tiny little blue arrow to the right of format as. If you click on it, it gives you a whole bunch more stuff.
Okay. You can see in the bottom left it says converting file format. And then it should automatically open Word. And see, this is what happens sometimes if you're not careful. It says new folder because That's what I told it
Me.
to say. And there are ways when you really get into learning how to compile that you can make sure that that doesn't happen. But you can see on this, it kept the formatting that I had within Scrivener, just because I kept the default export. But there's no chapter breaks. There's no real
I made a huge mess.
formatting. Yeah. This is why it's that you need to mess with it for a little while before you really get the hang of it. But once you do, you can create books like. I'm trying to remember if Breaking Bad, if I did that this way. I'm pretty sure I did because it was maddening. But you can see it over here on the left-hand side, formats. Like if I wanted it on Courier, I could have that. If I wanted a modern look, it has these different sections. But you have to assign section layouts, and this is not in the Windows version. And here are the section types: heading, subheading, section. So if I want my heading to look like, if I can find heading, maybe the part number, I would just click that. Subheading, should be a subheading somewhere. Let's do section title.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then section, which would be like your main text. Then I hit OK. And what's funny is I'm not entirely sure that this is going to come out the right way, because I haven't. Yeah. So here, let's do subheading here. Let's see how this looks. So you get what's going on now?
Yeah.
So I'm setting this new folder. So new folder should look like this heading. So it's going to transform into this heading. And then before we begin, probably everything within that scene is going to look like this subheading. And then everything else should look like this section.
I was hoping that, like standard settings for what publishers want, like you have to have certain fonts and certain sizes. They
Yeah.
don't have it.
They don't, and that's a good idea. But you could set up a template,
Yeah.
which I think we can do. So yeah, that changed my font to whatever this is, Avenir.
Mhm.
Because within Scrivener I was using Times New Roman, I think. And then the other thing I was going to show you,
So you're setting the format where? In folder,
so there's a couple ways to answer that. So by default, it uses whatever it looks like within Scrivener. Whatever way if I use Times New Roman in Scrivener and I use the default setting for compiling, it's going to spit out Times New Roman. But if I change...
okay, so this is setting only for export.
Mhm.
But is this way that you have to put a title of the chapter in separate document, separate text icon?
I don't know if I know what you're asking.
Okay, so you know how we have text or scenes.
Mhm.
Okay, so to have a title in a bigger font, you have to put it as a separate scene. Yes?
No.
Maybe
No.
so.
No, you just have to call it, yeah, this is where it gets kind of confusing. So let's say, that's our chapter title.
Okay, so that's what the title on this. And if we want to have chapter 1 and the title, then what?
Go ahead, Jessica. I can hear you.
Because the way he has his stuff, he has his chapters as folders. You change the title of the folder.
Yes,
That's on them, and then when you do the export, it's gonna grab the title of the folder.
yes. But some books have
But
stuff like chapter 1.
that's what
and
I'm talking
then-
about. So when you export it, it's gonna show up as chapter 1 because you're gonna tell.
No, they have chapter 1 and underneath they have a title of the chapter. and there are different sizes of the fonts. So
For that, yes, I now I understand what you're trying to ask. So yeah, you're gonna have to create. So the way Blake has his set up, it's got a folder for his chapters. You're gonna have to create a small document. It doesn't have to have anything. It can be empty, and then that's where you can include the subtitle.
okay.
And then it's kind of like a folder within a folder, that kind of layout.
Yeah, I don't, as she was talking, I did that. And there are a couple ways to go about it. So this higher level folder is chapter 1, and then, you know, we could say awesome title. And then this folder within it is the subtitle. And now if you go to compile, you'll see over here, chapter 1, subtitle, section type heading, section type, we'll call that subheading. And then it'll spit it out that way. So the compiling gets really kind of complex pretty quickly, and it's worth getting into, but just to the point where you get it to where, like, you know, you can always compile to the same thing that you want. And I know it's confusing, but it's worth digging into the Scrivener manual to really figure it out. And it does take a lot of, especially with the Windows version, does take a lot of effort to get exactly what you want. I'm going to show you the ebook software. I'm going to show you the ebook software too that I really like. It's called Vellum, just for Mac. What?
I love Vellum.
Yeah, I do too. And I used Vellum on Sins of the Five Fathers, and I did that for both the ebook and the print book. It's very impressive software to me. And Scrivener and Vellum, they're kind of working together. So you can export to a Vellum, Vellum approved document. And just if you're curious, what file was it going to do with Vellum? I'll show you kind of what it looks like.
Is it in tools or is it in
No,
format?
Vellum is an entirely different program.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not for Windows either.
No, unfortunately not.
So I'll show you. This is Sins of the Five Fathers, and you can, even if you didn't export from Scrivener, you could throw a Word file into here, and it makes it really easy to separate your chapters, your pages, to make fancy looking titles, all that fun stuff. So I recommend that if you're on a Mac and you're thinking about ebooks. And then you can.
Pictures in it.
It does pictures.
Okay.
And I could show you, and this is the preview, so you can see what it looks like on a Kindle Fire, on the iPad, and then also in print. And I already set up the dimensions because it offers, I said 6x9, and so it automatically knows what to do with it, which is super nice. And it has a few different templates, so you can kind of change the look of this. Let's see. Close that. If you get lost, help is always good. This search is not for it's not like a Google search, it's not going to answer that, but if you forget where something is in a menu and you can remember what it's called, you can type it in up here, and if you just hover over it, it's going to tell you where it's located. So that's super helpful if you can't remember where something is. And then also really helpful, close that, the Scrivener manual, you click that, it opens a big huge giant PDF, which I've tried to read through. I read through a lot of it. But when you're, if you really want to get into the compiling, just look up compile in the PDF, and it'll, you can find everywhere it's mentioned. And it's really well done, in-depth manual. They have interactive tutorials on their website. They have video tutorials, so if there are certain things that you want help with, you can do that. What's the website? I forgot it. How can I forget it?
Is it this literature and laughter or not that one?
For Scrivener?
For Scrivener it is. That's not the one I was thinking of. LearnScrivenerFast.com is a video tutorial website. You have to pay for it, and I wasn't going to mention it because I'm not sure if he's updated the course for this version of Scrivener, but maybe like when the Windows version comes out, he will, since that'll be, you know, since the Windows and Mac version will be the same by then. But that was the website I used to learn how to use all this a long time ago, and he's really good. They're like 3-minute videos, 5-minute videos, so you can kind of do them real fast. So that is actually all I have. It's 8:35. We have until 9 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, till 9.
I did figure out the templates
Okay.
during our break, and we can talk about that because I think that is very helpful, and I will start using it. It's pretty simple. So I have created this file. Let's say I'm happy with how this looks. I use Times New Roman, 12 point, double spaced. I didn't show you this. This is, you can get a little bit more fine grained. I use a 12 point paragraph spacing. That's just what I prefer. So let's say I like this. If you go to File, save as template. And then this is, I noticed this, so it gives you a warning that it contains personal information because there's some metadata that has my name in there, because you can set your author name. I'm just going to say yes because I'm the only one who uses this computer.
And then it can be like
Yeah, well look.
my template.
Yeah, like, well, sure, I'll call it that. I don't know why my caps lock is on. I'm shouting at everybody by now. I can't type either.
Why template?
Why?
Category, oh, this is for, like, on that first screen, so, sure, we'll put it in fiction. If you want to have an icon, let's do science paper. There's a little bit of lag between my mouse and that screen, just so you know. We'll say science paper, look at that. And then check save styles into template, because I think if you don't do that, then you're defeating the purpose of why you're creating a template.
Exactly.
So I'm going to say okay, I'm going to save it, so let's do file, new project, and now if I go to fiction,
There's my template.
my template, double click, untitled, and now it's actually keeping everything that I wrote in there. So, but if you wanted, and this is actually really helpful, if you have, you know, if you set up your organization and you want kind of the same starting point every time,
Yeah.
then you have that template. Okay,
Like chapter and subchapter.
exactly. Just like the other
You know,
templates.
for me it's like fonts and breaks because I don't want to set it up, and I don't like what the pre-made templates
Yeah.
have.
And I'll show you the screenwriting template just for fun.
Oh, that's okay. I'm screwed.
And it makes you name everything before you get started, so you can't accidentally lose power and not have saved your file.
Right. Oh, there it is, sample script. But it'll output, you know, if you do the compiling right, you can output a script too. And they have, I think when you're writing a script, because I try to do this because I had aspirations of turning that into a script. Maybe, and I still do. But it required like another learning curve for Scrivener because they have like shortcuts when you add character names and actions. So they do like take into account that you're actually writing a script and that there are different conventions for that to help you try to write it faster.
That's the fun.
That's what a lot of scripts use.
You said you've done some screenwriting.
That's what they want, font-wise,
Mhm.
to submit. One of
Very,
these, like I like.
It's weird, it's so far indented and all
Mhm.
blocky and.
It's very, yeah. They have very
But they do it because it's like a minute a page.
Yeah,
Is that
and they
what I
won't even,
heard?
like, apparently if you make even the minorest mistake, like it's a
It's a great
deal breaker.
Yeah.
They won't even get past page 1 if there's a formatting error, so.
Yeah. And partially I do understand that, like coming from an editor standpoint, when I receive a manuscript that isn't formatted, the way I want it formatted, which is like kind of the traditional way, it's harder for me to read because I'm so used to reading, you know, double space, Times New Roman. It's easier on my eyes. I can scan it faster, you know. But if you're using some crazy font, I'm going to change it for one, but I also don't want to really take the time to change it. So I think some of that is just because they get so many, they have to read so many. So what other questions do you have? We have a little time for more questions. I feel like there's a fire hose, but I hope that like you have a better grasp of what this can do to really open up possibilities for organizing and writing and tracking and all that fun stuff.
Open, let me see one of my older
So,
files. And
If I buy, you know, this, and I change my laptop, what happens?
So the higher function. Oh,
You,
Do I use
if
my-
you get a Mac,
No, yeah,
or
whatever.
just,
I mean, not
Or
even-
upgrade or.
Yeah, like if I upgrade my,
yeah, so they only charge you, this is the nice thing too, like they could totally charge a monthly subscription. I would pay it. I shouldn't say that like online. But I really would because I appreciate the software so much. But they only charge you for every major upgrade. So like, you know, I paid for Scrivener version 2, I don't know, years ago, 2013. And then I paid for version 3 last year. And I think they even did a discount. But if you,
I change my laptop, what happens?
you have your code.
You have your, it's,
Yeah.
it's your license, you own the
Yeah.
license.
Okay,
of it,
that's
so.
fine.
Yeah.
Assuming you haven't lost that.
That's,
Yeah, that's
you can also, I think you can also retrieve it.
yeah,
They,
through them.
they do
It's
well
really
of
good.
like providing fail safes. But that was another good question too, that you do have to buy separate licenses for Windows and
Yeah.
Mac. But they do offer a bundle deal if you get both of them. So that's nice too.
That's
cheap enough.
that's iPod synchronized with PC. Yes. No.
Does, say that again?
iPod.
Oh, the
Does it
iPads?
synchronize?
So with
We-
iPad,
I mean, iPod.
That's okay.
the only thing with iPad, if you, for a Mac, if you update to the new one, it doesn't quite sync as well. It does to a point. It syncs best with Scrivener 2 right now. But for iPad to like a PC, as long as it's connected to Dropbox, it should
Or
work.
buy a Dropbox.
Yeah.
So
I
you
don't
don't need
have
a
iPad.
license, you just
I
need an
have-
app.
You just need the
Android
app. You buy the app,
download
which
from my
is
device.
$19.99 from the App Store.
And yeah, and then they
What
don't
is
have
it?
Android.
For the iPad or the iOS devices,
Oh,
you can get it the app, which is $19.99. I will say that there's a lot of function missing.
Yeah, it's mostly if you just want to write on
Yeah.
the go. If you just want to work in the editor, if you just want to add text, that's all I would really recommend it for.
But it'll sync well to like a version 2.9 or something like that.
It'll sync well with that kind of, with that, but once you move up to the big update, which is Scrivener 3, I mean, I haven't quite had a chance to really test it, but I've heard some other authors that yeah, they've had some trouble with
Yeah.
it syncing.
And I haven't used it. I tried it out earlier before this version, so I can't talk to it either.
so if I want to start a fiction, let's say, do I just do this outline thing first and then do that fiction
Mm-hmm.
template?
The template?
And
You,
then just
yeah, you
start
can if you
typing?
want. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good way to not have to worry about like organizing the binder stuff, because
You
they
have,
already
like,
do it for you.
somewhere?
I'll pull it up. And they even give you, so this thing, the top of the novel format, they tell you how to use the template.
Oh, okay.
So if you just read through that, it'll help you. But then you could just copy chapter and scene, you know, if you wanted more chapters.
So is it easier to break it down by chapter?
It's up to you how you really
Yeah.
like to do your formatting and how you like to do all that stuff. But for me, I just do it by document. I don't put folders.
Okay.
But now that I've seen how Blake does it with,
I'll say I
with
like
folders,
the
I think I
chapter
like that
breakdown.
better.
Yeah, it is really up to you. One of the cool things that I was going to show you that I don't use because I don't write fiction yet, but I keep hanging out with all these novelists.
We corrupt, I'm sorry.
You do. Is on this synopsis, there's this icon on the right hand side, and that's a picture. So if you click the picture, you can drag an image there. And so like this is on the character sheet, so say you have an idea of like, well, this character should look like so and so. And I've heard of other writers who, you know, like this is supposed to be like a Tom Cruise kind of guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they drag his picture there just to kind of give you that
What
inspiration.
were you writing about?
Yeah. And then same thing for this places placeholder, I guess, that you could click that image, you could drag, you know, the picture that evokes the kind of place you're looking to describe. This is nice too. This front matter, so this is all the kind of peripheral stuff that goes at the front of a book, and they automatically include it here just so you don't forget about it. Yeah, they include that one. And then they have different sections for notes and research. Template sheets, I think that's new. I haven't seen that. That's what I was looking. That's what I thought character was going to have. So they have this character sketch where you can fill in, you know, this is just research. And they automatically have this, so you can type it in for all your characters.
So you could have everything in one place.
Right. And then you could create these yourself if you wanted to keep track of something else.
The other reason why I like Scrivener is that even if you throw something away, it's still there.
True. This trash can works just like your computer trash can in that you have to empty it
Empty it out.
yourself. Else it's you know,
It's
everything
gone.
you throw away is still there.
Yeah.
But once you empty the trash, then it's very much gone.
This is freaking out trying to import a web page.
So, do you know anything about?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I don't know.
But
I'm sorry.
it says it's importing it as plain text because you can only import anything else outside of the draft folder.
Interesting. I have imported like a full web page and it worked,
Okay,
but
maybe the Mac is better.
well,
Because
it
it's just
wasn't.
sitting here doing this,
I
and
know,
it's
it
supposed
wasn't-
to be just plain text.
It wasn't working on mine either. So
Scrivener appears to be having trouble.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry.
we'll edit.
We are done. If you need to get going, if you have no more questions.
right. On writing tools, there's bunch that doesn't light up right now, which says like look up in thesaurus, look up in brain quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
have
use
you used it?
yeah I use
Why it
look up
doesn't
in
show up like highlight on mine? Tools, like tools, and do I have to block?
So,
The
real
document?
quick announcement before you leave. We for all of our future seminars and our classes and stuff, for anyone who attends and stuff like that, or even on the live stream, if you can hear me, go ahead and use the discount code Dallas, all caps, and that'll give you 10% off on any future seminars or any classes that you guys want to attend.
Yeah, that's what I do in what, so.
And then just but yeah.
I'll give you. Yeah, I always say if you don't want my business card, you at least have a bookmark
Thank you.
because I like bookmarks. I'm assuming you all read. I hope. But my website and my email address is on the back there, so please email me if you have questions that you think of later on.
You'd be surprised how many people say they're writers but they don't read.
Well, I'm not. Now that I've worked with some writers and I'm like, well, how much do you read in your genre?
Sometimes
I
they're
don't.
afraid to read in their genre because they might copy someone.
Oh, and
Yeah.
then
And
just
I'm
one more
like,
announcement.
so being ignorant
If
and unintentionally
do
copying
NanoWriMo this
someone's
year?
better.
Am I what?
Are you doing NanoWriMo this year?
I don't know.
On October 27th
I like the
is
writing goal of
you got
it.
the writing goal of it?
Yeah, I like the 50,000 words. I don't know if it'll be a novel, but
Well,
So
on
you're
October
doing
27th,
NanoWriMo?
the official NanoWriMo group for Dallas and Fort Worth, they're gonna have their basically their big meet and greet and that'll be from 11 to 2 at Bear Creek Park.
Okay.
So you can meet up and you can find out what NanoWriMo is and if it's something that you guys want to do. We are having some write-in events every Thursday in November, and they'll be here from 6:30 to 10.
Are you doing write-ins or is it?
Write-ins. So
Okay.
basically, you're welcome to come in. You're welcome to sit down. We'll have coffee, cookies.
You know
Open
you're like
hours.
5 blocks from my place.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I have
Those are on
a-
Thursdays?
Those are on Thursdays, except for Thanksgiving, of course. But
Uh-huh.
yes, every Thursday in November.
So 6 to,
It'll be 6:30 to 10.
okay, like. So just show up,
Show
shut
up.
up, and
Have coffee, eat your cookies. So-
And that 20% discount, is it flat?
I think it'll be. I don't know. They didn't say how long it was gonna last.
What's this place called?
The drawing board.
Like, it's not the board.
Well, I'm gonna shut this down. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Good.
Sweet.
I know it's a lot
What are the
to
secrets?
take in.
So why do people say it's kind of like, they seem online, it seems